It's all the time, every time. What's up, y'all? It's me, Angel B, and welcome back to another episode of the Healthy and Healed Lifestyle Exchange. I got my girl Jen with me. I'm super excited because the conversation that we are having today is something that should be normalized, should be talked about, and people should be comfortable talking about it. So I'm excited that Jen is here to share her story with us, and we're going to jump right into it. This episode, we are discussing infant and pregnancy loss, right?
Yes.
Jen, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so October was actually Pregnancy and Infant Loss, or PAIL for short, P-A-I-L. There's a specific day in October, I don't really remember now, but there's a specific day in October where it's just designated to people who have lost their children.
And the importance of us releasing this after is because I personally believe that anything that we have that is tied to a specific month should be talked about every single month. This is something that women and men go through on a daily basis. They may talk about it, they may not talk about it, but my prayer and Jen's prayer is that through this conversation, people learn how to cope with their infant or pregnancy loss, how to deal with it, how to talk about it. And Jen is here to share her story with us. So I'm super excited.
Yeah.
So Jen, can we talk about Bash?
Of course.
Yes. Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so Bash is my son. His full name is Sebastian, but we call him Bash. He has a nickname, Bash. He has plenty, but we'll stick with Bash for today. My wife and I got pregnant in 2021, and I would say like February we tried, like we did an IUI cycle, and then we got pregnant. We found out we were pregnant in March, which was just like amazing. Even though we like planned for it, I remember finding out and being really like scared and being shocked, like, what the hell did we do? Why would we do that? I was so like, she was so excited, and I was just like, yo, are we serious? Like, did we really do that? I had a pretty like simple pregnancy. I like documented a lot of it on Instagram. I would talk about like cravings. I would talk about just our experience, my experience being pregnant. I had like almost every pregnancy symptom, nausea. I didn't really throw up often. I threw up once and then I kind of avoided it.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah, it is, for sure. I avoided it for the rest of the pregnancy until I went into labor. But I had everything, like the back pain, the lightning crotch, which we don't talk enough about. I had everything, like food aversions. I can't even think, like fatigue. Pregnancy, some people glow, like they glow really nicely. Pregnancy fits them beautifully. I feel like that was me the first, maybe second trimester.
Okay.
That third trimester, I was exhausted, just tired. My eyes were super big and black and dark, and I wasn't getting any rest. I couldn't sleep on my sides because my hips were hurt, so I had to sleep sitting up. It was just, third trimester was a hot mess for me. I was always exhausted. And like later we found out why, because I was carrying 10 extra pounds, because Sebastian was 10 pounds and 5 ounces. Yeah.
Big baby.
Big is an understatement. That was a big boy. Yeah. So I was just carrying 10 extra pounds, like I said, and yeah, just super, super exhausted. Labor was, okay, so let me back up. I planned for a home birth. That was a really big part of my like journey. I know that we hear, or maybe you don't hear, but like there's a really big push about the maternal mortality crisis right now, specifically for Black people. And I was just not really trying to have that be a part of my birth experience, and so I didn't want to go to the hospitals. I didn't want to like not be listened to. I'm already like Black and a woman, and then I was coming in with my wife, and so I just knew that there would be a lot of biases at play in my labor, and I just didn't want to have to deal with that. Didn't want my doula to have to deal with that. Didn't want Nina to have to deal with that. I didn't want anyone in this experience to have to deal with doctors thinking they know more than us. I mean, they do to an extent, but like
you know your body better than yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
So your home birth experience was good for you.
Yes.
Okay.
I went into labor about like 12 in the morning. Labored at home for a while, and then my doula came over. She helped us with like positioning. She really grounded me. I was spiraling because I had back labor, so Sebastian was like turned in a different position, and it was really painful. And so she came, she helped us with like positioning. She helped grounded me because I was panicking. We actually got him to like get into the position that he needed to be in just by doing like certain positions and stuff. And labor was smooth sailing after that. Like I was handling the contractions. Our midwife came. We were all in there. Nina was talking. Our midwife had like right at the end when the baby's about to come, our midwife said it's her tradition to have the partner tell the story of how we met. So Nina's telling the story of how we met. I'm pushing. She like will tell the story. I will have a contraction. They want you to push with the contraction.
Okay.
And not outside of the contraction. And so when I would have a contraction, I would push. Nina would pause the story because I would be like screaming.
Right.
And then it would go silent. I would be like trying to catch my breath, and she's sitting here telling the story again. It was just those moments were pretty insane.
To say the least.
Right. She finished her story before I even like delivered.
Okay.
So I started bleeding during the labor while I was pushing, like trying to deliver Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we ended up transferring to the hospital. So blood in labor is normal, but the amount that like was coming out for me was kind of just a little questionable. Mm-hmm. And so we called for an ambulance to come just in case like I would need to be transferred. We were still trying to get Sebastian out at that moment, so we just weren't sure, but you know, just to be safe rather than sorry. Mm-hmm. When the ambulance got there, I was still bleeding, and so we kind of just decided that we'll move forward with the transfer. I went to the hospital. In the ambulance ride, like we were still trying to deliver Sebastian. He was being very stubborn. He wasn't. Wow. Yeah, and he was so low, like everybody could see his hair. Yeah, and like when I was in the apartment, I was still pushing out in front of a mirror, and I could see his hair too. Like we could see him. But he just wasn't, he was not trying to budge.
He said, nah.
Yeah.
I ain't asked to be here yet. No.
Right. So in the ambulance, still trying to push him out, didn't come out. Got to the hospital, still trying to push him out. He did not come out. And so they were just like, we got to get him out. His heart rate started to drop. Mm-hmm. It was pretty low. It was like, it went down to the 40s, and they were like, no, we got to get him out now. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't have time for you to keep pushing anymore. Which was fair. I was just like, do whatever we need to do.
Right.
I remember getting to the hospital, and it was just a complete, like, different environment. So I was in my home, which was very calm, very peaceful. Everybody was, like, asking me if they could touch me, asking me if, like, this was okay. And then I got to the hospital, like, 2 doctors did a cervical check on me. I didn't even know who they were. Right. People didn't even know my name. They were just, like, all these doctors sticking IVs in me. It was just so chaotic. And very like traumatizing because I'm just like, what is going on? No one's talking to me, but everyone's asking me questions. No one's answering my questions. Mm-hmm. It was just very chaotic. I remember being really scared when they like whisked me off to get the C-section. They wouldn't let Nina come in because it was an emergency C-section. Mm-hmm. And so I had to go under general anesthesia because there wasn't any time for an epidural.
Gotcha.
For like local anesthesia. Yeah. And so I went under, and my C-section took about 3 hours. They said that I lost a lot of blood. A C-section is typically only like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they just had like a lot of repairs to do. It just took a while. Yeah. And so it was pretty, it was
intense.
Yeah. And then when I woke up, Nina told me that Sebastian was born without a heartbeat. Just had some like complications. It took them a while to bring him back. Mm-hmm. And they were able to get him back, but he needed just a bunch of assistance. So he needed help breathing. He needed help just like regulating his temperature, just doing everything for himself really. And so they transferred him over to Children's. Mm-hmm. And we kind of like went from there. The next day they told us that he just wasn't really doing well and that they didn't think that he would make it through the night. Mm-hmm. And they thought that it would be best for us to come see him. So we got to go see him. They call it like end of life care. Yeah. Where we like give him a bath, we put an outfit on him, we could read a book to him, we can hold him, just kind of do that kind of stuff with him. We got him baptized. My grandma was there, my sister was there. Yeah. It was a really, really nice experience. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that we were able to do that with him and not like he just like, passed away and we couldn't even, and then they had someone who comes and takes pictures. Mm-hmm. And so we had someone like taking pictures of us and taking pictures of him. It was just a really nice, I know it sounds crazy because I'm like, what, like, how is your son dying a nice experience? Yeah. But it was very, like, comforting. Yeah. And they were very warm and understanding. Because of COVID, like, that many people weren't even supposed to be there, but they let all of us come in. They gave us the time that we needed. They were very gentle. There's nothing that you can say in those moments, and they knew that, so they weren't trying to be awkward. The staff at Children's was just amazing.
Well, praise the Lord for that.
Yeah. They were very helpful in that journey. Very helpful. Yeah, and then they like connected us with a bunch of programs for like funeral services, cremation, and what do you call those things, like memorials, like mementos. They just like we did like footprints, handprints, memory boxes, things like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was just really sad.
Okay, so that was a lot to take in, but hearing you tell your story, Jen, is beautiful. First of all,
really?
Hands down. One, you're smiling through this, so it's not like, oh, I'm singing this sad song of Bash. Like, this is really his celebration of life, right?
Yeah.
It was for a moment, but to hear you share your story, I'm really impressed. It took me a while to be able to share my trauma with others.
Okay.
And I'm sure it took you a while. We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But to hear you share this, like, I'm excited, guys. I'm excited. Like, this is exciting.
And
so, in that moment, so my question was, because you were talking about how it was sad and things of that sort, like, where were you mentally as all of this was going on?
I was kind of checked out.
Okay.
I went numb, which is very...
Because you literally just came from a C-section to... This was the next day?
Yeah, but less than 24 hours from my C-section. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was... kind of just numb. I went from when I delivered him, and Nina told me that he was still alive at the time, but just hooked up to everything. I was kind of just like, all right, like we're good. Like he's alive. I didn't know the extent.
Gotcha.
To like his condition. And so she told me that he was in critical condition, and she was really sad. But I honestly was on a high. I was just like, I just had a baby. I'm okay. Because like I was the one that was bleeding. Yeah. And so like I'm okay. Sebastian is okay. He might need a little help, but he's good. Nina's good. And so I'm just like, we're good. And then literally the next morning, they were like, he's not gonna make it. And I was just like, what the hell? And so I went completely numb. Everyone that talks about like interacting with me in those moments say that my affect was very flat. I was very monotone. I didn't really have much emotion. Yeah. And I went completely numb. That was Wednesday. And then I remember on a Thursday, I was talking to my friends who we want to be his godparents, who are his godparents. And they were just like, I was like laughing with them and joking with them, and they were like, what's going on? Like they were so concerned. I was also concerned because I was like, like I haven't cried. I haven't like.
It didn't set in.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
It didn't. But then, so we stayed in the hospital from Tuesday to Friday.
Okay.
Friday we got home, and that night it was just, I boo-hooed. Like, I was just so sad. And those like moments after that were really hard.
So Wednesday you gave birth. Thursday were when you were
Tuesday I gave birth.
Okay, Tuesday you gave birth. Wednesday was when you were able to go take the pictures and stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Friday, that's when it set in.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Just to give you guys a time frame of like really what's going on through her head during this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Friday it set in. We were so fortunate that we had our birth doula who was there with us. She couldn't come into the hospital with us, but was there with us for most of the labor. And then we also hired a postpartum doula who was gonna come support us, do some like night shifts with Sebastian, kind of just like help us with like feeding. Like I plan to breastfeed and take some day shifts where like we could get some rest and she can like help out. The two of them knew each other, and so they went over to our apartment. They moved all the baby stuff into the nursery because we had like stations in the bedroom and the living room. And so
that was thoughtful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nina and I talk about that all the time. Like we don't know what we would have done if we had to walk into the apartment with all the baby stuff out. Even though like we walked in and there was no baby stuff, and so that kind of stung a little bit too, but a lot less than we think it would have been if all the baby stuff was out there. Yeah. So Friday we went into the house. It was very hard for me to go into the bedroom because of
that's where you were giving birth. Okay.
And so, and also our bed is really high.
Okay.
And so I crashed on the living room because I couldn't really like do that. Like I couldn't get myself because of the C-section. So I was sleeping on the couch. Nina had like blew up the air mattress, and we were just like thugging it in the living room for about 3 weeks because I couldn't go into the bedroom. It was just a lot for me to go back into the bedroom.
So Nina, we love you. First of all, I love you. Can you share a part of that, like how that support helped with Nina being there and being present?
Nina is just, and I talk about Nina all the time. So if you follow me on Facebook, you know Nina.
I feel like I know Nina, and I ain't never met Nina in person, but I feel like I know Nina.
Yes, yeah. Nina is just the absolute best. She, even like immediately after she was like waiting on me hand and foot, I didn't have to get up to do anything. Mm-hmm. It was a learning curve for me because I like, my grandmother's Caribbean. She raised me. We don't let anybody help us. We do things on our own. If you're feeling sick, it's too bad. You got to get up and do what you got to do. And so being like told that I need to rest and that rest is imperative for healing was very hard for me. But Nina was just like, what you need? What do you want? Emotionally, she was there. Like, we literally, and not planned, of course, but we would take turns crying. Like, one night she would have a really hard night and I would just support her through it. And then the other night, like, I would have a really hard night and she would support me through it.
Can we highlight that for a second? Because I think it's important to note that for parents, just because you birth them don't mean that the other parent isn't affected. Yeah. So like to have that balance, and even if you don't, it's being able to just make it aware. Like, I know you too have feelings. Right. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And then she also like she had like a front row seat to everything. So like she watched me bleed. They wouldn't give her an update.
Tell me, I need to talk about this with her, like from her experience. Yeah. Just like, I'm like, dang, Nina did have her own traumatizing experience. Well,
yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Okay. And so at one point she thought like she was gonna lose both of us, and I can't even imagine. I don't know how she like.
When did you guys get married?
In 2020.
2020, and this was 2021. 21.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Nina, my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. But she was just like the best support. She would like, you know, like when you have, because Sebastian was so low, I had the healing from both a vaginal birth and a C-section. Right. And so I needed the little peri bottle that it has water in it. Yeah. That you spray when you use the bathroom. I needed the like cooling pads and I needed all of those things in addition to like my C-section recovery. And so she would like prepare my pads for me. She prepared frozen pads before the birth, like weeks before the birth.
That's a thing? Frozen? Like, it's a different pad though?
No, you just pour like witch hazel on it and put it in the freezer. Yeah.
I'm learning something new. Okay.
And so she made like 8 of them when you're only supposed to use them for like 2 days.
Okay.
She made a bunch. But yeah, she prepared them ahead of time and was really excited that I was like gonna get to use them. Yeah. She would like bring them to the bathroom for me. She ordered me like a shower chair so that I didn't have to stand in a shower. She ordered me all these extra like bigger clothes. Yeah, she was just the best. Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. And I'm excited to hear that because I personally believe that anyone who has experienced it or is experiencing it, just hearing your story just brings light to, like, there's light on the other side of the tunnel. Yeah. So I do have some questions because on the other side of this and the importance of the healthy and healed lifestyle exchange, it's always 2 sides of the stories. And in this part, there's 3. Like, you have both parents with both different experiences, but then you also have people on the other end. One, I'm not a mother at all. I never gave birth. Never even thought about giving birth. But then 2, on the other side, you encounter so many people who have never experienced pregnancy at all, or don't even know that you've had children or had Sebastian, and people say whatever they want, whenever they want, without some of them not even thinking about it. Yeah. So people ask you, oh, when are you having kids? Or without even knowing your story. Or, you know, they tiptoe around the story of Sebastian or without even acknowledging Sebastian. Because they just don't know how to feel. And so I'm on that side because I did know Jen both before you were pregnant, through her pregnancy and after. So I've been able to encounter Jen in each phase. And I can't say that I wasn't afraid to even say his name, right? Yeah. Or even acknowledge that you gave birth. It's like, what do you say to someone who has lost a child? Yeah. So this is why we're having this conversation, because we think that it's important. Not just so you can know that people do experience different kinds of loss, but then 2, how do we make this a comfortable exchange and not have to tiptoe around and walk on eggshells? Yeah. So with that being said, what do you believe those of us who are on the opposite side should be sensitive to when we're talking about pregnancy and infant loss?
Yeah, I think that and I'll say this and then I'll explain. The notion that we even have to be sensitive is something that I kind of want to challenge, because we aren't sensitive to people who have living babies. Like, we just talk about them, like how they're doing. And of course you can't ask me like how my dead child is doing, but like there's no like need to be sensitive when you want to ask me about Sebastian. And so like if you want to ask me about my pregnancy, go for it. Like, I love talking about my pregnancy. It's one of those moments where I get to acknowledge that my son existed and that he is a person. He just died. And so I don't think that there's a sensitivity that's needed when we want to talk about like our babies, even though they're not here. Talk about pregnancies, and some people have lost children who did live for more than a day, so they know their baby's personalities, and so they're able to talk to them, or they have pictures. I think that it's perfectly normal to talk about that, or to ask about them, check in. Like, I know a lot of people say they don't know what to say, which is valid, because we as a society, we don't know how to interact with people who are grieving. Something that I tell people is just, when you think of me, just say that. Like, you don't even have to ask me how I'm doing. Just say, just thought of you today. And that does a number for me. Even now, because I'm almost at a year out. Like, Sebastian's birthday is November 16th.
How beautiful. I did not know that. Today is November 1st. I'm telling you guys, just in case I don't post this video on time. That's beautiful. Oh my gosh, okay. Yeah, so even now, like, when people are just like, hey Jen, just thought of y'all, I love that. Or when people like give us gifts and they address them to me, Nina, and Bash. Like, I love that. We sign our cards from Bash, like from the three of us now. And so my question, because while you're here, and we're going to talk about how you got to this point, we do encounter people who are still in this process of don't mention it, right? They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. What do you, I know the answer to this, but I want you to explain the answer to this. Where do you believe that response comes from?
I will answer like as a lost mom, and then I'll answer like as a therapist.
Okay.
And so as a lost mom, I think that it is really tough. A part of the trauma of losing your baby is all the people that knew you lost your baby. And so seeing people for the first time, knowing that they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, or there's gonna be some like sadness, or I think having to worry about managing other people's feelings is a really big lift. I follow a lot of lost moms on Instagram, and one specifically recently just shared, like, I remember like feeling so apologetic when I would tell people that my baby died, because I had to manage their emotions, and they would be devastated as if they could be more devastated than I am.
Right.
And so I think having to manage people's feelings, it's just a lot.
It is.
Yeah. And then grief is really heavy to carry sometimes. And so if a lost mom like doesn't want to talk about it, it might just be like a heavy grief day. They just want to like put it down for a couple.
So in that moment, don't keep asking.
Yeah. I would definitely say follow their lead. For any like parent that has lost a child, like if they are open to it, then go for it. If not, just follow their lead and don't like push the boundary. Yeah.
Now, as a therapist,
that's definitely like a trauma response. We are like avoidant of things that are really hard for us. It's our brain's way of making sure that we're safe and like taking care of us. So definitely like makes a lot of sense.
So that's a great segue into our next question is what do you wish people would stop doing? Like,
like ignoring it. And so specifically for me, like I have some people who haven't even said like Sebastian's name since he died. And that's really crazy to me. Like, how were you so excited for him when he wasn't even born, and then he was born, and because he died, like all of that kind of just dissipated. Or they'll like avoid it. And so they'll like ask me about work, or ask me about like my grandma or Nina, or everything else under the sun except how I'm doing about the fact that my son died. So I really like want people to avoid like bringing it up for me.
Okay.
Or bringing him up, saying his name, like you mentioned earlier. Like, it's okay to say his name. If you don't want to say Sebastian, you can say Bash.
Because the TT is gonna have all kinds of nicknames.
I was about to say his aunt Rob called him Bashy Booty, and so there's just like my grandma calls him Bash. Bazzy. Sure.
Okay, we'll take it.
There's just it's okay to say his name and talk about him, mention him. He really liked music, and even though like he only lived in my stomach, he still very much had a personality.
And they respond.
Exactly.
They say that it's important for moms to, and parents, period, to talk to the baby while the baby is there. Like, life doesn't begin once the baby is born.
Exactly, yeah. And so he really liked Taylor Swift, Wildest Dreams.
Okay.
The Bridgerton version.
Oh, okay.
So like the regular one, he wasn't
one
really feeling, but the classical one was his thing.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, and then like avoid like not reaching out. Just like I said earlier, like when you think of me, just say that. I know that it's really hard because you think you got to formulate the perfect thing to say and you don't want to be triggering, but just thought of you today is not triggering at all. It's just, it just lets me know that I crossed your mind, and that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about trauma. And I think this is a great segue into this whole healing process. Because after any type of trauma, we all deserve to go through a healing process. We need it for ourselves, for others, those we encounter. How did you go into, and when did you feel the need to go into a healing process?
Yeah.
So this, for you, it was from Tuesday to Friday. It was like, okay, then it set in. At what point did you feel okay to talk about this?
I would say right away.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just how I process things though.
Yeah.
Like I need to talk about them over and over, literally like over and over and over again for me to, I guess, continue walking that journey.
Yeah.
I think it is important to note that for this, like healing, and not even just for this, like I think healing never ends. It's just a lifelong journey. It just looks different.
Absolutely.
Like,
in every phase that you're in.
Right, exactly. And so I think with this, the first stage, and again, Nina being really supportive, while we were in the hospital, she had already let both of our therapists know that Sebastian died. I already had an appointment on Tuesday. We kept that appointment. She had her appointment. We kept those appointments. And so I was home Friday, and that next Tuesday I had a therapy appointment. Yeah. And I think it didn't start then because, of course, Friday I had that breakdown, and me and Nina talked about it a little more. I would say that even Nina and I kind of like sort of tiptoed around it. Like we would cry and we would know why we were crying, but we've just gotten, not just, but maybe a couple of months ago, we've gotten to a place where we can say like, I wish Bash were here, like out loud to each other, or like, I miss Bash, or like, I wonder what he would have been doing if he were here right now. But like at the very beginning, those were not words that we were able to utter out of our mouths. Yeah. We were kind of just like trying to focus on like eating. People kept telling us we needed to eat. And so, yeah, I would say like it started right away, because we were like allowing ourselves to emote and I was emoting. Yeah. But definitely on that Tuesday where I was able to finally talk about the birth story, with my therapist.
Why is the healing process important? Like, why is it important to even just talk about it, find a therapist, whatever coping mechanism that somebody chooses to do, because we know that therapy isn't for everybody. Why is it important to start a process of wanting to overcome what you've experienced?
Yeah, I think in order for us to move forward, and I like to differentiate between move forward and move on. In order for us to move forward, we have to learn how to integrate our trauma into like who we are now.
Absolutely.
And so, and I don't like to say move on because it kind of feels like just forget everything that happened, or just put it behind you and like keep it pushing. But like move forward, I think that the healing is the only way, or like being on a healing journey is the only way to actively work to like integrate all of the things that you've experienced into who you are now. And so a lot of like lost moms will say like, I'm not the same person I was like before my baby died. Like even when I was pregnant, like I'm not that same person anymore. And you won't know that. You won't be able to acknowledge that if you don't embark on a healing journey.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So where are you today? You're in your healing process.
Yeah.
Even just hearing you speak, I'ma keep saying it. I'm just like, I saw Jen then, I see Jen now, and it's a beautiful process. And I used to hate when people be like, oh, I love where you are. Like when I was just going through something, but I understand it now because in that whole moving forward journey, I needed to go through every phase of my life through whatever trauma that I've experienced in order to get to where I am today. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is if we acknowledge, we confront, and we face what it is that we've been through. So where are you today in your phase of overcoming or in your healing and things of that sort?
I would say that I am in a unique space right now because I've kind of like found a way to ground myself, but because I'm coming up on the anniversary, things have been a little more tender than they usually are. I have kind of like, my body has kind of gone back into feeling like numb a little bit as I'm remembering like the first was, and maybe this is too much information, but the first November 1st was my last Brazilian wax while I was pregnant. And so, like, remembering
Tell
that.
the ladies about it. We don't talk about it. So let's talk about it today.
Right. And then, like, November 8th, I had my last hair appointment when I was pregnant. Just, like, preparing for labor. Because I was just like, I'm going to get this wax before I go into labor. My midwife
Y'all not finna fin this.
Y'all not.
You not finna see all of this.
Exactly. We're not doing that. It's a lot of liquids that happen in birth. We're not doing
The last thing you're going to see is a pretty vagina. Okay?
Okay. Yes. And so I just had like all of those 1 year marks are coming up now. So those have been really tough. A lot of what I do now is like write to Bash. Like I write notes to him. I kind of just like, sometimes when I pray, like I'll pray to him or talk to him. Me and Nina talk a lot about him now. And so like I mentioned, like the first couple of days right when we came home, we weren't able to, but now we're able to like talk about how big he was. Like we joke about how big his feet were. Like Nina got him like Uggs and the nurse put him on and was like, this is the only wear that you would have gotten out of him.
Wow.
Yeah. He was in a size 1 diaper.
Already.
And he was a newborn. Yeah. So we were just like, that was a big boy. He was big. And so now we can like talk about that, laugh about it, laugh about how stubborn he was being, like not delivering.
Wanting to come.
And so he was like, it's ghetto out there.
Right.
Right here.
Bash, trust me, you are in a better place, baby. Because it is ghetto out here, okay?
Yeah. So we're like, I'm definitely in a better place than I was before. But that I don't want to like make it seem like things aren't hard still. Things are still very much hard. Like Halloween just happened and seeing all the babies in their costumes was really hard. Like he would have been 1 this month, and so knowing that it's gonna be hard. It's just been like extremely difficult to maneuver through the world, like as a mom whose child isn't living.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask this question because you did just mention it. For those of you with children, right, and you meet a mom who has an unexpected loss, is it okay for like, how should they react in your presence? It's like, do I bring the baby around? Like, you know, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like, do I show her pictures of the baby?
Yeah.
Answer that question for us.
Yeah, I would say ask them. Because for me, so we had Bash in November, and then in January, I started babysitting a 4-month-old because I needed to be around the baby. Okay. I just felt like I had so much like maternal energy and love that I was preparing for, and I just needed to give it somewhere to someone. And so I was around the baby, but I have a friend who like lost her child and was just like, I don't even want to hear a baby cry.
That's
like
good.
I don't. It was just very difficult for her to see babies, hear babies, like even think about babies in that way. And so I would say it's specific to the person. Yeah. For me, it doesn't matter. For Nina, it doesn't matter because we love children, we love babies, even more so now. Well, maybe I'll speak for myself. I love babies a lot more now. And so I love the babies. Bring the babies. Bring the children. Bring them all.
And when I say that's good, I mean it's good to ask. Like, we shy away from asking those tough questions because we think that they're tough. When in actuality, it's better to know than to not know. Yeah. So, any last words of wisdom, advice, anything that you would like to say? It's Bash birthday month, y'all, so I'm excited about that. But anything you would like to say to a parent, a mom, a dad, someone who's lost a child, or even to those of us who are on the opposite end, any last words you would like to let us know?
I would say to people on the opposite end, one thing I forgot to mention about avoid like the little like silver lining phrases, like what is it, like at least you have more children, like for people that do have more children, or like he's in a better place. And not when you just said it. We were joking and we were talking about how it's ghetto here. Right. But like just absently saying like they're in a better place, that's not really helpful. Or like everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Those do not say that. Those are the absolute worst things that you can say to someone who just lost someone. Anyone, a baby, a like parent, a relative, anybody.
Yeah.
So I'll say that. And then for other like parents who have lost their babies, I would say I'm really in a space where I am enjoying community. And so if you are someone that like feels isolated in your experience, or even just wants to talk to more people, like feel free to reach out to me. Like we'll post that, right? We'll post my information. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me.
You will be able to connect with Jen after this video.
Yeah. Even if you haven't lost a baby and you kind of just want to talk and like hear more because you know someone who lost their baby, like definitely feel free to reach out.
And follow her page, please. Because I feel more connected to Jen just through her sharing her story before we used to talk because of how we met.
Yeah.
But through her sharing her life story, I absolutely love it. I adore it. Like I said, I feel more close to her. I feel like I can connect with her, reach out to her for anything now just through her sharing. So I believe that you guys can get that even more, especially if you've experienced what she has experienced.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop her information below, and we'll keep it updated. I usually don't tell people to say it because it's like, okay, if you choose to change your handle, you can, but we're going to drop it in below so that you guys can be sure to connect with her. And thank you guys so much for joining us on this segment of the Healthy and Healed Lifestyle Exchange. Be sure to tune in to more, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Bye.